Now we're ready to install SQL Developer. Now the SQL Developer, we're going to do this here in a few moments. SQL Developer, like I said before, it's not a real installation. The installation is extremely simple. It's nothing more than copying a bunch of files to some location, and then the last thing you want to do is simply launch the SQLdeveloper.exe file. So you double click on that and lo and behold, it launches. It just works. So this is kind of cool because it means that it's not doing a bunch of stuff to your Windows environment. It's just a bunch of files, you put them in one location, you launch it, and you're good to go. This is one of the reasons why I love using SQL Developer. It's a very powerful program, not a lot to do with the installation. I like this a lot. Then the last thing we're going to do in this, and we are going to do these last couple steps together, is you want to download the database scripts. I'm going to show you what this database scripts, what the name of the database scripts are, and I'm going to show you what's inside of them so that you can understand what's happening. And then the last thing we're going to do is create and fill our database tables, and we are going to use those scripts to do it for us. So it's all pretty easy. So why don't we go take a look at this? So I'm just going to go over to my desktop. And you can always tell when you've got Oracle XE installed because you're going to get this icon right here. And this icon launches basically a window that lets you see basically everything that's happened with the installation and to see how it's set up. No big deal. But down here are my other two downloads that I have. The first one is my SQL Developer and then my Oracle database scripts. Now these are just zip files. So I have WinZip installed on my system. So if I double click on this, it launches my WinZip, and here I have my SQL Developer. And I could just shorten this up a little bit, and if I go in here, here are all the folders that are associated to it. So let's go back to my desktop here. Let's go over here and get my, will you stop doing that? That drives me crazy. All right, there we go. So now this is how I install SQL Developer. If I'm going to install any software on my system, it's automatically going to get placed in the program files folder on the C drive. So if I go up here to my computer and I double click on this and I go into my C drive, then here I have my program files, and then I also have a program files.x or program files x86, and that's for older type software, for 386, 286, whatever. You don't need to worry about this. And so what I want to do is I want to install SQL Developer, or I want to put it inside of the program files folder because that's where all of my programs already reside. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into my program files x86, and here are a bunch of folders. And I'm going to create a brand new folder, and I'm going to call it Oracle. But notice that I went into my program files, I clicked on new folder, and it opens up a dialog box and it says destination folder access denied. Here's what's happening. There are basically 3 folders on your system that are protected by Windows. Windows wants to keep track of the Windows folder because that's where it lives, and then it wants to keep track of my program files and my program files x86. It wants to make sure that not anybody can throw something into these folders. So it's just prompting you and says, hey, I need to have confirmation that this is indeed what you want to do. So I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to say, yeah, continue. And there I get my new folder. And all I'm going to do is call this Oracle. So I'm just going to say Oracle. And the reason I'm calling it Oracle is because the SQL Developer is created by Oracle. It's an Oracle application. And so anything associated to Oracle, I want to put into this folder. So I'm just going to hit enter, and it opens up and it's a blank area. And I'm going to move this down. And one of the things that I love about about WinZip is that I have multiple ways that I can unzip or uncompress this file or files. I can go up here and I can click on the unzip, and I can also do the one-click unzip. I don't like to do that. What I can do instead, however, is I want this SQL Developer folder and everything inside of it to be inside that Oracle folder that I just created. So right here's my Oracle folder, it's empty. I'm just going to click this and drag it right down in here, let go, and it starts unzipping everything. So while this is unzipping, so basically what I've done is I've taken this SQL Developer and all of its files that are associated to it that were all compressed into one zip file, and I'm expanding this into my Oracle folder. Now that it's in there, now I'm going to do the next step. So it says, all right, you need to provide permission. Do you really want to put those files in there? Yes, I do. So continue. And then lo and behold, there's my SQL Developer. I'm going to go ahead and shut down WinZip. I don't need that right now. So here's my SQL Developer. If I double click on this, here are all of my folders, the same thing I saw inside of WinZip. And if I go down to the bottom, here's my SQL Developer. Notice it says SQL Developer. It has an actual icon next to it. Now you have SQL Developer.sh. So you have two different files in there that say SQL Developer. The one we care about is the one that actually has an icon that looks like something. And you can also tell because over on the right hand side over here, it says application. So this is indeed what I want. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to click my right mouse button and drag it out to my desktop. So I drag it out here and it says, do you want to move to the desktop? And that's not what I want to do. When I let go, I get a drop-down menu and I want to create a shortcut here. So now I've got that icon out here and it's a shortcut to that location. So instead of me unzipping everything onto my desktop, which I hate doing, I like to keep my desktop fairly clean, I just put I'm sorry, if I could speak today, I put the shortcut out there instead. Now the other thing you're going to notice is that once you do this, it looks pretty ugly. It says SQL Developer, all one word, and it has the hyphen shortcut. Hate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to say SQL Developer, and I want the SQL and the D to be capital. So SQL and D for developer, and now that looks pretty nice. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to put that onto my taskbar down at the bottom. So I'm going to right click on this and say pin to my taskbar, and now I have a little button down here on my taskbar and I'm good to go. I'll move this up here. Looks pretty nice. So that's my SQL Developer. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. So basically I unzipped everything in the program files folder under the folder called Oracle, and then I just created my shortcut, Bob's your uncle. Now what's also cool about this is now if I launch this, I didn't have to run that install. I just copied the stuff onto my hard drive and now it's working. So it's going to go through it, performs a setup, or actually it performs a pre-setup every time it launches. And here is SQL Developer. And let's just take a look at this. Let's take a look at this real quick because I want to show you how we're going to use this here in a moment. SQL Developer is a fairly standard looking application. It uses a menu up at the top. So we have our menu where we have File, Edit, View. We also have Help at the end. We also have Tools. And then we have a series of buttons on our toolbar. And if you want to see this here, let me just go ahead and let's zoom in real quick. So here is the file, and let me get this out of the way. So here we have File, Edit, View, Navigate, Run, Versioning, Tools, Help. And again, we have our buttons up here along the top. And if I put my mouse pointer over there, you get a tooltip. So this is New. And notice that New has the 3 dots after it. Remember, if you ever see 3 dots, don't ever be afraid to click it. Because when you see 3 dots, it means it's going to open up a dialog box and it's going to ask you for more information. It's not simply going to launch something. You don't need to worry about that. And then we have our connections. So now here we have our connections and we have company. And if I click this, it's going to ask me for my connection information. And remember during that installation I said that you want to keep track of that password because it's going to prompt us for this password. Well, that's the password it's asking. It says for the username system. Now this is also very important. System is for the whole system. And that's why I said that password was very important because that password is for the whole system. Now in the real world, if you are not a DBA, you're not going to have the username system. It's probably going to have your login name or some name that the DBA is going to give you. And that DBA is going to set up your password as well. Not only that, but the DBA is also going to set up what permissions you have within the database. So you may not see everything. You're going to see maybe only those tables or those views that you're allowed to work with. So just keep that in mind. But here I want password. So my password is password. So do this. And then it says, okay, I'm going to go out. I validated your password, and here are all of the things that you have available to you. So now we have our tables, views, indexes, packages, procedures, functions, all kinds of stuff. Now what we're going to be working with in this particular course are all of our procedures. And this is where we're going to have some fun, because I'm going to show you how to create or how to automate your database. So it's going to make your life much easier, and it's going to make your developer's life much easier. Perhaps you are a software developer and you want to learn how to write stored procedures within Oracle. It is definitely going to make your life much easier. Instead of you having to write a bunch of code in, say, C# or C or VB or whatever the case may be, you can let the database handle it, and it takes all that load off of you and your machine. Very cool. So let me go ahead, I'm going to zoom back out. And I just wanted to show you how you can envision or how you can view things within SQL Developer. I'm going to shut this down for right now. The next thing we're going to do, or this is the last thing we're going to do, which is run the scripts to create the database tables and also fill it with data for us. And this is inside the Oracle Database Fundamentals download. And in here we have our zip file, and in that we have a bunch of text files. No big deal. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder down here. So new folder. I'm going to call this thing scripts. And I'm going to take all of these and drag them right in there. And it creates them inside here. I can get rid of the zip file. And I have my SQL files. Now notice that as you look at this, it says company define. And then it says, here's my date modified, and it says it's a SQL file. And a lot of people, when they don't understand SQL, tend to start hyperventilating about right now, because they think it's some super magical file that might destroy something or catch their machine on fire. And that is not the case. As a matter of fact, the thing that I love about working with Oracle and working with SQL files is that it's just a text file. If I right click on this thing and I open this up in a program called TextPad, I could open in Notepad, I can open it in any application I want to. It's just text. That's what's so cool about this. I mean, think about this for a second. We're working with an enterprise database solution. You're working with Oracle here. And to make it work, all we need is a notepad. It's almost basically no different than it's an electronic version of a note. I mean, that's cool. That's power right here. And so here we have a bunch of commands. Notice up here we have a slash and an asterisk, and then an asterisk and a slash. That says this is all a comment. This doesn't even get viewed. The compiler couldn't care less about this stuff. But then down here we have drop table employee cascade constraints. Create table employee. So it says, I'm going to make sure that this table is not here. If it's there, I'm going to drop it. Then I'm going to recreate it. And I'm going to create a table, and I'm going to call it employee. And inside of this table, I'm going to have a whole bunch of fields. I'm going to have fname, and it's going to be a varchar2 size 10, middle initial, last name, social security. It's just a bunch of text. That is cool. And I can go down to the very bottom, and it's just created a bunch of stuff, and it says purge the recycle bin. So all of those drops, it says I'm going to drop stuff, and it throws it into a recycle bin, and then at the very end it says, all right, just get rid of it. It's no different than deleting a bunch of files on the Windows, and then you have that recycle bin and you say empty it. Same thing. But it's all done with text. Pretty cool. So that is my company define. So that's how I create those tables. Then I have one called company drop. Now we're not going to run this one because if you think about it, we just looked at that drop command. So company drop says I'm going to get rid of all of that. I'm going to get rid of those tables. And then I have company insert. Company insert inserts records into those tables that we created with the company define script. So if we take a look at this one, however, this is going to be a little bit different. So I open it up in TextPad again, and here I have an insert command. So it says insert into employee. So the employee table was created a little while ago, and it says here are the values that I want. And it does this. And then if you go to the very bottom, this is something that I love. Notice the command right here called commit. Let me just zoom in on it. Let's go over here. Commit. Now, again, I keep stressing this, but I can't help myself. When you're working with something like Oracle, Oracle is an enterprise database solution. And what this means is that the database engine manages everything that you do with that data. So you can have 100 people hitting this database simultaneously, and the database engine, Oracle, is going to manage how everything gets done. So you might have one person saying, hey, I want to add a brand new record, and another person says, I want to modify a record, or I want to query, I want to retrieve a bunch of stuff. Everything that you do in that database happens extremely fast. But when you run something like an insert or an update or a delete, those commands basically get jotted down by Oracle. So let's say, for instance, we're doing this insert. So we're inserting a bunch of data. And it says, hey, I want to insert a record into employee. And Oracle says, okay, that's cool. I'll insert that record. I know that you want to insert this. And then you might insert a whole bunch of other records, which is exactly what this script is going to do. And Oracle says, all right, I know that you want to insert all of this data in here, but it doesn't exist yet. It won't exist until I see commit. Once I see commit, I will basically say, all right, this data is now available to the world. And this is very, very, very important for you to understand. This commit statement is extremely important. I can't tell you how many people I know who've been working and they say, I've inserted 1,000 records and I don't see any of them. And the first thing I will always ask them is, well, did you remember the commit command? And they're like, oh no, I didn't. Because those records don't truly exist until it sees the commit. Now, why do we need this? Because a lot of people also say, well, I said I wanted to do it. Why do I need to add this one stupid little command? And the reason for this is because let's say that you're inserting a bunch of data into a bunch of different tables, and then you run into an error. Well, if you run into an error, you can execute a command called rollback. And rollback will say, oh, all of those commands that I just executed, that never happened. So in the event of an error, instead of corrupting your data or creating orphan records or creating some situation that is bad, you can say, hey, roll it back, it never happened, I'll fix it, and then I'll try it again. So the commit statement is basically a means of saying, all right, yes, I said I want to do this, I really want to do this. Post it. So we're going to see this. We're going to see this a lot, as a matter of fact. I wanted to point this out to you. But again, this is a SQL file. It's nothing but text. It's pretty cool. So we're going to run the company insert as well. And then the last one you have is called company select. Company select is a means for us to actually query that database and make sure that our tables exist and that data exists as well. So this is just for the company database. And then down here at the bottom, you have an electronics. And notice that electronics has 4 different scripts as well. Electronics define, drop, insert, and select. It's the same thing. It's just creating another database. Instead of company, it says electronics. Then we have a login. You have your Oracle XE license. And that's just a licensed text file that says, hey, you're saying that you want to use this. You know that there could be problems, blah, blah, blah. It's just a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Who cares? But then you also have one called Sedaris class IDs. And if you see this, ignore it. Because this is for a situation, let's say that I were teaching you face-to-face and we were going to have 10 students. This creates a bunch of student IDs so that all of you would be able to connect to the database. Since we're all doing this remote, you don't need to run this. So if you see Sedaris class IDs, just ignore it. You didn't see anything.